Call the meeting in order. The time is 6 p.m. We'll start with attendance. Director Beisel?
Can we take a quick pause?
Absolutely.
Can we ask this individual to please sit back there?
Oh, yes.
Well, I understand that.
I have absolutely no problem with it. We have business to attend to. We need to attend to the business. Director Beisel, could you please read the attendance?
Carrie Tate. Here. Lisa Hedin.
Here.
Jessica Dressley.
Here.
Becky Beisel here. Stephanie Malm.
Present.
Brian Davis.
Here. Please stand and remove your hats if you're able, to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Did I get a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah, second.
All right. Any discussion on the agenda? Director Tate.
Yes, I move to remove the MOU and bills payable from the consent agenda. I have unanswered questions regarding the MOU, and I cannot in good conscience vote for the bills payable, so would like to see these removed.
The motion on the floor is for the MOU and the bills payable removed from the agenda. Is there a second?
Seconded.
With a second, now there needs to be any discussion that's involved, and then we will vote. I'm sorry? No discussion? Then we'll just put it to a vote. All in favor of moving the MOU and the bills payable off the consent agenda and into individual item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes, I believe. Those opposed?
Aye.
3-3. The MOU and the bills payable stay as part of the consent agenda. Director Tate.
I would like to add 2 agenda discussion items and votes per an email I received today from Superintendent McDowell. He indicated that he needs full board approval before moving forward, and they are time-sensitive items. The first item is to provide accurate information regarding an archived meeting to a community member and also to the Minnesota Data Practices Office in response to the state's investigation into our district. So I move to amend the agenda to include a discussion and vote on that topic. That's number 1.
To be clear, the motion is to authorize release of an archived meeting, correct?
Correct. Correct details of an archived meeting.
Specifically, which meeting was it?
I believe it was October, is it 2nd or 4th of 2020? It's the one that is included in the state's investigation.
Director McDowell, I don't know which one that is.
I'd like to see the acknowledgement of a state investigation that you're suggesting is happening.
It was included in the email that we received from our lawyer on September 30th. He indicated that there was a state investigation in that email, and then we have received several emails from the individual who requested the information, as well as they're copying people from the state on emails that he has sent to the entire board.
I'm not aware of any formal investigation that's going on from the state at this point in time, so I'm not sure what that's referring to specifically.
So we've got 2 different meeting dates, this 10/2 and 10/4. Director Tate, is there a way that you, with given a moment, could narrow it to which date it is? so we can be specific on that, that'd be great. I'll give you a second to do that.
It looks like it was over a weekend. It was October 2nd and 3rd of 2020.
We had a meeting on, okay. Oh, the retreat. Thank you. Okay, so this motion for the agenda add item is to release details of an archive meeting, 10-2-10-3, which was a retreat that was attended by us. And I need a second for that motion first and foremost.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion around that? Okay, first Director Tate, then Superintendent McDowell.
Yes, the responses that have been provided to this individual who requested this investigation have been that we don't have a way of keeping track of these changes. And I took the initiative to reach out to Board Book to find out how we do know these changes, and they have told me that we simply need to unarchive the meeting and we can provide the accurate information. So it's a very simple task.
All right. Superintendent McDowell.
So I'm confused. You stated there was an investigation going on by the state into this, which there is not. And the superintendent is working with legal, as was given to you in an email, is working with legal in responding to the individual who has sent a handful of requests about this, and legal has been involved in responding to that individual.
Director Tate.
I'm sorry, your email indicated that you were not going to move forward with doing anything with this unless you had full board approval and input from legal. So I was under the impression that you were looking for approval from the board.
I'm going to ask that you read the entire email because once again, you are conflating information. There were two parts to that email, which other people on this board have seen, including the chair, that one was in response to a request not related to what you've put on the table for a motion, and the other was specific to what the incident is you're talking about. Yep. So you're conflating both of those to try and get your point across.
I have a
Okay.
second motion for the other
Okay,
piece.
I'm not exactly.
Need a second? Second.
A second, we're gonna stay on track here. So we have a second for it? Okay, then it's, then we just need to vote as to whether or not we want to add this to the agenda. All those in favor of adding as an agenda item, please signify by saying aye. Oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry, I didn't know you had something.
Debate, we have to vote, we actually have to vote.
Right.
Stopping the discussion.
It was called to question, so at that point, we have to vote. So again, all those in favor, specifically of unarchiving the meeting with the details from 10-2 to 10-3, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? That will not be as an agenda item. Director Tate, what was the next agenda item, please?
Yes, I move to amend the agenda to include a discussion regarding specific information I have requested from administration, which I deem invaluable for my own education, in order to determine whether or not we renew the superintendent's contract. As we are supposed to advise the superintendent by December 1st, if we will not renew his contract beyond the current school year, this is a time-sensitive request. He has advised that he will not provide the information without the approval of the board.
Thank you, Director Tate. Can you tell me specifically what the information is that we would be approving?
I have requested the correspondence between our district and legal, and this is based upon the fact that for the past several months, I have been receiving detailed legal invoices for my review, and in looking through the details, there's been a lot of legal activity regarding the district, and a lot of it has not been shared with the board. So I am looking for information, finding out what has been going on so that I can educate myself and determine if we should renew this contract.
The motion on the table is for release of district correspondence between the superintendent and our law firm.
Correction, it's the district.
The district and our law firm. One second, Superintendent McDowell. What period of time, Director Tate?
This is going back to November 1st of 2021, which would have been any correspondence regarding the creation of Policy 215 and disciplining board members.
Superintendent McDowell. Director Beisel. I'm sorry, I thought you had a question.
I did on the last one.
Oh, okay. All right. Director Mom. All right, so the motion on the table is release of district correspondence between the district and between district correspondence for the law firm, starting from 11/1 to, I'm assuming, the present, predicated on the idea of looking into the original creation of Policy 215, and we need a second on that.
Second.
Now, any other discussion on that? We've had some discussion. Superintendent McDowell, I'm sorry.
Just a point of clarification, the entire board has the ability at any point in time as a board to request the information from legal. There has not been that request. However, the entire board also is privy to the detailed bills that come in every month, which suggest what those conversations were about. So it would be misleading, once again, to suggest that the board does not have the ability to see legal bills, or I'm withholding that from the board. From you individually, based on our correspondence, yes, which I put out in that email to you and the reasons why, because you're leaving that part of the email out as well.
Director Tate.
So to be clear, the details of these invoices say things like First Amendment, open meeting law discussion. There's no details on what exactly is attached to those conversations. So that is what I am looking for, clarification on what those legal questions have been.
Director Mom.
So as you're well aware, we receive a lot of data requests. And very often, if not all the time, the district have to consult legal for redacting private information. And so there is consultation. So open meeting law, for example, we know that we've received a slew of data requests regarding open meeting law and multiple inquiries over the last year about our open meeting law statute in Minnesota and then our policy. So that there was a lot of conversation just this last year regarding open meeting law. So that's probably what you're referring to. I am concerned that you are investigating privately on matters that are not related to the board. So just read that whole email and then maybe we talk about it at the retreat.
Director Dressler.
So I was unaware that that information was available to us as a board as well. So it wasn't just curious that that wasn't available to her.
Director Tate.
I guess here, so this is what we are going to be discussing at the retreat. And it is that there are certain members of this board who have had access to information that the rest of the board has not. So when you state that the most of those open meeting law items on the invoices are related to those questions, that is information that you have that I don't as a board member. And this is part of my frustration. This is why I have asked that we had it to the retreat. I'm glad that we're going to be discussing it at the retreat. So I feel like at this point, we are on different playing fields with knowledge regarding the legal questions and concerns of the district. That is why I'm asking for this correspondence. As I said, it seems that the chair and the vice chair have been privy to information that the rest of us have not, and I feel that that information that you have been privy to is important for me, at least, to understand what has been going on and how we move forward with the superintendent contract specifically, but possibly also, you know, we're going to talk about it at the retreat. It's the question of MSBA versus legal and all of that as well.
Director Mom.
No, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. And you were correct. It is, as you're aware, on the agenda for the retreat. So I don't think we need to hash it out tonight because we will be talking about it in depth on Friday. So thank you.
And I'll just add that we will be discussing on Friday, and if there's something that you're not getting, then I want to make sure that everybody's getting the same information that we see. So as long as it's considered compliant and legal, I have absolutely no issue with that. But yeah, we can absolutely just, we know we're going to discuss on Friday. And also, we also have set up for our work session in November discussions around criteria that would involve the criteria around a new superintendent contract as well. That's on the work session for November 7th. We can vote. So once again, we've got on the table district communications between the district, and the law firm, beginning 11/1 to the present in terms of discussing that this evening. So I just need to vote for all those in favor of doing that tonight. Please signify by saying aye. I don't really care. I could do it tonight too. That's 3. Those opposed. Director Beisel, you're abstaining? Yeah. Okay. So that doesn't pass because it was 3-2 with an abstention, or does it? I don't know how that works. No, it doesn't. Didn't think so. Okay. But we will be discussing this on Friday, so. One moment, I lost my screen. Okay, I've got it back. So I need a motion now to, I'm sorry, Director Tate. I was not looking in that direction.
I just want a clarification, sorry, because it was my understanding that this information would not be released to me without a vote of the board. So is this now, I cannot have access to this information? Is that what was just decided because we won't discuss it?
No,
Okay.
no, certainly not. That was not what was decided at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. I have one more motion to amend the agenda. So I move to amend the agenda because I sincerely believe we are acting in violation of our fiduciary duties as board members and are putting the district at undue risk for lawsuits. I ask that the board consider changing the district's legal counsel from Rupp, Anderson, Waltzberger, Squires, and Mace to Kennedy and Graven, specifically attorney Maggie Wallner. Whereas in May 2022, our current law firm provided time, place, and manner restrictions to be placed on a board member, which made it impossible for him to completely fulfill his duties as an elected official. This was apparently done without legal precedence. Whereas on August 30th, 2022, our current law firm provided 2 individual pieces of legal advice via email that were both based upon false information, including reference to the status of an active case that was inaccurate. Whereas in general, our current law firm has provided us with legal documents containing formatting issues, grammatical inconsistencies, a misspelled name, and an incorrect date. This information is the basis for my request, and therefore I'm asking to amend the agenda to include this consideration.
The motion is for consideration of discussion of replacement of current law firm with a new one. Names, we can get into specifics with the motion. First and foremost, again, we need a second to that motion.
Second.
Okay, now we can have discussion. Director Beisel.
Can you repeat the date of that email, please?
Yes, the date, the most recent email that we had received was August 30th of 2022. It did have an attorney-client privilege on it, so I can't share any specifics.
Does anybody else have any comment? Okay, I'll share my piece of comment. One of the things about having something of this nature on there is that in order to have that conversation, we would have to ensure also that the law firm that is looking at being replaced is put on notice or that they are able to defend their position, for lack of a better word, as we're going through that. So it'd be difficult for something to take up tonight, but it's certainly going to be taken up at a work session or something like that should we want to do that. It would just be difficult to take up tonight without them here to represent themselves. Director Beisel.
I'd like more information about who you're suggesting, so I can in good conscience vote on anything tonight, just because I want to know more about that law firm and that lawyer specifically.
This sounds like Superintendent McDowell.
Just put on record, we already have 2 other law firms that we work with, so I don't know why it's a combined motion to begin with, and why I find it interesting that we're specifying a specific law firm with the motion.
Director Tate.
One of the reasons was because I had already made a motion for the board to consider changing legal district, the legal counsel in general, and that was voted down. So now I have done some homework and found another education attorney. And so that's why I changed the motion and included the additional information that I wanted to provide that I was not able to provide last month.
Again, I think that with additional information and time, I have no problem reviewing anything and considering anything that's put forth. So with more time and consideration per Director Beisel and myself, I think we could get there. I just don't see it in this evening. But that being said, that's my component of it. It's part of the discussion. And if anybody else has any other comments before we vote, that'll be great. And I'll take those comments from anyone. Director Tresley.
So are we suggesting that we're going to move this on to we're tabling it, or what is the?
What I'm saying is that, at least for my part in terms of voting, because I can only speak for myself, just as Director Beisel first off, I can't vote for this evening because I need to look at the whole piece of information as well as the fact that if we were going to go through something like that, I like the firm here to be able to explain themselves in terms of anything that's being put out there. Director Tate.
That's fair. So I will rescind the motion.
Very well. I'm sorry, Director Tresley? Okay. Just making sure. Just want to make sure that everybody is heard. So with that, I need a motion to approve the agenda as it is set forth so we can move the meeting forward.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That would be 4-2. Please let the record reflect that. And now I need approval of the minutes from the September 28, 2022 regular board meeting and the October 12th, 2022 special board meeting. Need a motion and a second, please.
So move.
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. That moves us up to our recognition of visitors. Welcome to everybody here in person, as well as those that are coming in via our TV feed. Thank you for participating, or at least, watching, looking in and seeing what's going on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. That moves us over to announcements and recognition. Superintendent McDowell.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up Emily Chandler and our marching band, who recently, October 8th, was involved in the Youth and Music Minnesota Championships and took first place in Class A. And so we wanted to bring them up and recognize them and let them talk a little bit about the experience.
One moment really quick. Do we have a camera that goes out that way? Yeah. Excellent. Can you do me a favor and put that trophy up on that table so everybody at home can see it? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Emily. Sorry.
My name is Emily Chandler. This is my 22nd year directing the marching band in Hastings.
My name is Tom Wensler, and this is my 16th year co-directing with Emily.
My name is Josh Wallstrom, and this is my 14th year as the percussion director.
My name is Jake Bolkin. I am a graduate of Hastings from 2006, and I've been working with marching band since 2010.
Hi, my name is Sydney Tiber, and I have been the drum major this year for the band, and I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Emma Loudermilk. I was the clarinet section leader, and I'm a senior.
I'm Ryan Linder. I'm the trombone section leader. I'm also a senior.
I'm Amber Dawson. I'm a senior, and I'm the baritone section leader.
I'm Patrick Noonan. I was the tuba section leader, and I'm also a senior.
So our marching band program consists of a summer parade season where we teach all of the students kind of the basics of marching and getting them accustomed to each other. And then we lead into fall where we have our competition season and we compete the Saturdays when school starts, and we finish with state finals, and I'll let Sydney talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that I love about marching band is seeing the incoming ninth graders, incoming students get welcomed into the high school, get acclimated with just the high school, the building itself, but then just make their circle of friends and the community that just welcomes the new ninth graders. We had a new senior this year, we have new juniors, 10th graders, and all of the students, the returning members, just really give them a community and give them a home, and that's one of my favorite parts about marching band.
So I'm here. So marching band for us is just like a little bit from the students. It's definitely a family aspect, and we definitely grow together, grow as musicians, but also grow as people. So yeah, now I'm going to talk about the Saturday. So we had to get to the high school really, really early, like at 5. It was too early for that. I don't even remember what time. But then we went up to US Bank Stadium and we performed for our first run. And then we waited a little bit and we had awards. So I was on the field accepting the awards. And let me just tell you, the feeling when I was on the field was just amazing, with the band cheering when we were announced as our Class A winners. It was just a great experience. And that meant we got to perform again later at the finals. So, and then we performed again, and that was definitely an amazing experience. All of us were in tears afterwards, so that just shows you how close we all are. So it was just a really great day, and yeah, Class A champions.
One of the things that we talked about at our fall banquet was, what makes a group successful, not only one time, but repeatedly. And we're really proud in our program that this was the 6th time that we've won the state championship in our class. And so what we did is we had students and parents at the banquet actually come up to the podium, and they shared some thoughts of why are we successful repeatedly. And a lot of those thoughts that people shared came back to the culture of our band. Whether or not it's community support or parent support, or what it means for the students themselves. And so as much as the awards are fun and the trophies are fun, certainly what we take pride in our program particularly is the fact that our students have a great experience and that they get a lot out of our program repeatedly year after year, and we are very proud of that. So thank you to the community and everyone else who supports us. We had a police escort when we came back to town. We had some fireworks. We had lots of people standing on different corners of streets and cheering us on. So that is really, really important to our students. We want to thank everyone.
And just like Josh had said, the appreciation and the gratefulness for the community support, KWA, and the articles that they've run on the kiddos. Mr. Doran and his videos. We were in Take a Hike Mike this year for the first time, so that was quite entertaining. And from our seniors that are stepping away and bringing those memories with them to our youngest marchers. We have one of our youngest one proudly sprouting off her gargoyle costume back there. So it's we have a lot of fun, and we couldn't do it without the support of everyone in the town. So thank you.
So I have a quick question for you. So I know what the theme was, but I'm asking way back there, what is the role of the gargoyles? I know you guys are setting the theme and everything. You need to come up here. You can't hide in the back like that. There we go. Tell me about your role.
So we tell a story on a football field in 6 to 8 minutes. And this year our theme was gargoyles. So we had a kind of the Notre Dame Cathedral in the back that was built by volunteer parents. And then we had our little minis be gargoyles. So they rang the big bell church tower that awoke the gargoyles and and warded off the evil spirits. We had the band wearing cloaks and the drum line through most of the show, and during the drum break, they all, their evil spirits were gone, and it was a happy celebratory end to our show. So we had a lot of wonderful, wonderful comments from judges, parents. We have parents from the Rosemont community, Marshall community that just love what we do in Hastings, and it's fun to get noticed in other communities as well. So we have a lot of fun. So
That's awesome. Thanks, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Careful with the trophy. Director Dean?
Thank you. Before you head out, especially the directors, I just want to share a story that happened in the last couple weeks. I was downtown Hastings. I was just walking through Rivertown Treasures, and a band parent stopped me, parent of a 9th grader, and she had tears in her eyes and just said it was such an amazing experience. The band was just exactly what her student needed, and the connection into marching band is just exactly what her student needed. And I mean, like, just the joy and relief radiating off this parent, it could not be measured. And I just wanted to make sure you guys heard that story, because it's one thing to say, the director says, oh, it's all about the community. But like, this was an unsolicited person that stopped me to talk about it. And it just touched my heart, and I hope it touches yours too.
Thank you, Director Dean. All right, Superintendent McDowell, I got next.
All right, for the superintendent report, I'd like to bring up our Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Rachel Larson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were still on your recognitions, your national recognitions. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was it. I apologize. Okay, so just hold on one second, Ms. Larson. We will get to you in a moment. So let us have our listening session summary first, please. Director Tate.
So I was writing very, very fast. So if I miss anything, let me know. We had four community members speaking to us. The first up was a teacher, and she advised the reason that they were looking for the MOU. She said, for an example, Hastings Middle School, in the last 5 days, they've had to cover 12 to 15 substitute spots per day. She said that the high school is a little more flexible, I believe, because they are on the 7-hour period, but she just basically asked for our support in approving that MOU tonight. That's one. The second one, this was a community member who thanked us for the importance that we put on mental health services and behavioral health services. She appreciates the increased funding. She made the comment, it takes a village, so it's not just at-home doctors and parents. It's also the staff and teachers and everything at the schools. She said that they came from Minneapolis School District, and this is a far superior experience in this area, so she appreciates that. She just stressed the importance for staff to really get the proper training to really take care of these kids. The third community member said that we have a lot to be proud of here. We have lots of opportunities for students, and she just advocated that we as a board figure out how to work together better, and that we need to make sure that we are focusing on working as a team and working on championing the district. And then, am I missing anything? By the way, I haven't looked up. Okay. Okay.
I didn't have some at the beginning, but.
Okay. Do you want to add?
Yeah, she just said to work as team as a school board and stop rumors around the district. Spend more time and energy supporting the teachers. We have decreased test scores, but everybody across the globe has decreased test scores. Should try and work together so that we can keep good teachers, and also said stop the CRT and book banning. And that's what I had. And the second highest graduation rate in the state.
Okay. And then the fourth person was a community member who has come, I believe it's monthly for the past several months. She spoke about the sexually explicit materials in schools. She is the parent who requested the whole process and the appeal. She said that she was disappointed that there was no appeal. She feels that she's been ignored, and that sexually explicit materials should not be allowed in schools. She feels that she's been asking the same questions for 5 months and she did not get answers, but rather just received a response eventually that we've moved on.
Oops, sorry. Thank you very much for that summary. I appreciate it. And thank you for everybody for coming in and participating in that listening session tonight. I am going to now move to reports and discussions, starting with the superintendent's report.
All right, for our superintendent's report tonight, I've asked our Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Rachel Larson, to give us an update on where we are with multi-tiered systems of support, because that's been one of our focus areas over the last 15, 16 months, and so we're putting that into motion, and tonight we have a report on where we are with it.
Good evening, Board Chair Davis, Superintendent McDowell, members of the board. It is exciting to be here tonight to talk about students and the staff and the incredible things that happen on a daily basis within our buildings across the district. It's also great to hear a community member recognize the importance of taking care of our kids holistically. We are a big part of our kids' development and experience as they learn and become and grow throughout their lives with us. And so, as you're aware, a multi-tiered systems of support is a way to look at how our students are doing through an academic, social, emotional, and behavioral lens. And so with the support of the board last year and ESSER funds from the federal government, recognizing that we are in unprecedented times with the COVID-19 pandemic and that students absolutely need and deserve social, emotional, behavioral, and academic supports, we were able to provide a lot of extra resources dedicated to those needs that the staff identified and asked for, and frankly, families as well when their students had struggles within the day. And so you can see the list of positions that are funded temporarily by the ESSER relief funds. Again, those are federal funds that we have received. And so we are wrapping around services within each of our buildings. And we have 2 multi-tiered systems of support specialists, one that helps lead at the elementary and one at the secondary. And then we have student success coaches at each building. And the student success coaches just make sure every student has the chance to be the best they can be. When I listen to students finding their passion and just finding their place with the band, we want every single student to feel like they have a family, to feel a sense of pride of what they do and who they are. And this system helps support that. So the student success coaches may help and connect personally with those students who need a little extra support to feel good and achieve that success that they want. We also have been able to add additional support staff, such as a social worker at the high school, chemical health specialists that's with the middle school and the high school, 2 TAP therapists, and school accountability monitors. And the school accountability monitors help us with students who may be in the hallways and need a little help getting around the buildings. The overall framework for MTSS is by a specialist, Dr. Ross Green. Children will do well if they can. Sometimes we lose sight of that. Every student deserves the supports they need to be able to do well. And when we do well, we feel well, and we show up and we become better. And so that's the real mindset around multi-tiered systems of support. It asks, who's maybe not doing well, and how do we support them? How do we respond as a classroom teacher, as a support staff, as a principal, as a director? How do we make sure our students are getting exactly what they need to do well? One of the things that we also look at, and we're having some professional development on in November, are adverse childhood experiences. The CDC has researched this for decades, and it's about the influences of various triggers and experiences that students may have and how that impacts not only their academic and brain development, but their social, emotional, and relational development. And these are key research-based important points that kind of come forward from the research that help educators understand when we're working with kids, they come with stories, they come with experiences, and it's our role to help them through those experiences to make sure that they can have access to be successful. And so this research follows families and students throughout their lives, and then leads us into the research that determines that we know one of the most important things from studying the ACEs is that relationships matter. First and foremost, one of the biggest protective factors we can provide our children are key relationships, not just with parents and extended family, but with community members and adults and people within the schools. So our MTSS structure helps support that because we know students need that. When you think about a multi-tiered systems of support, we've set out goals for the district at every level. And the goals right now are to help support students and staff on a daily basis. That's right now what we're doing day to day. What we're also doing is looking long-term at what are the systems and supports that we need to align with processes to make systems work really well and impactful, so that we can spend our time focusing on the students and not things that maybe don't get to the heart of improving things for that student fast. So we're excited about the process and the progress we're making with that. And to give you a little bit of idea what that long-term ongoing work looks like, is in the multi-tiered systems of support, we look at tiered supports. We consider tier 1, traditionally 80% of students do well with everything they receive at tier 1, the core. Then you have about 15 to 20% of students that need a little additional support to be successful. And then you hit tier 3, where maybe those students are less, but they need even more support to be successful in school. So we're looking at these tiered systems and mapping out what are the supports we currently have, where are our gaps, and what are our students telling us they need from us to be successful. So that is a very quick overview of the incredible work that the staff are doing. I can't say enough. I wish I could have all of them here. Anyone that works with students is a hero to me, and it is unbelievable on a daily basis what our staff do with our kids and how they take care of them, and the hard work and the skill and the sweat that they put into making sure that if a student needs something, they do their very best for that student to get it.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Does anybody have anything? Director Tate.
I apologize. I am working on learning my acronyms, but I don't know them all yet. You said TAP therapist. What is that exactly?
I don't know that full title. It's a organization that we partner with. Yep. So it's basically therapeutic services. So it would be very direct, intentional support that parents would, of course, provide insight for and sign off on. Yep.
And then I have another one, PLC work. What is that?
Professional learning communities. Our teachers meet weekly. Yeah, yeah. Our teachers meet weekly in professional learning communities to talk about students and how they're instructing and how they're assessing and how they do better.
And then the last one I have is the 5D plus instructional practices. What does that mean?
Our 5D plus instructional practices are a research-based framework that guide our entire instructional framework within the system. So it is the 5 dimensions of teaching and learning, so student engagement, assessment, pedagogy, curriculum, relationships. It's a guide for best practices and distinguished practices that we use as part of observation and evaluation to help our teacher growth and development process.
Thank you.
Director Beisel.
So mine's kind of a multiple question. So are other districts using this, and is there other MTSs out there, and how do we pick the MTSS? And then my other question is, you said long-term, this is ESSER funding. So what is our goal? If I love that we're doing this, but what is our goal, or how are we going to do that if the funds aren't there?
Yep, so one of the things that we're looking at are accessing grants. We're working on one new grant right now to sustain positions in the future that once the ESSER funds run out, we are no longer able to support. But when we look at the multi-tiered systems of support structure, it's been in place for decades. It used to be referred to most commonly as RTI, response to intervention, but as the sophistication of educational research has developed, we realize that it's not just an academic focus, that often academics become a struggle when we struggle with relationships, when we struggle with emotions, when we struggle with social behaviors, when we struggle with just showing up and feeling good. And so it's a very comprehensive way to look at the supports we provide students and not just say, you know, what's the story here? We need to look at the whole child and provide answers. So it has been around, I would say, in Minnesota through the Minnesota Department of Education only a couple of years officially, because schools were just doing it on their own and MDE hadn't created the infrastructure yet, but it's been around for a very long time.
Director Dean.
So this is the hard answer to Director Beisel's question. The answer belongs to us. I mean, I think it's terrific that Administrator Larson is out looking for grants and considering opportunities to resource these types of supports, but the answer belongs to the board. The allocation of the resources belongs to the board. The question of advocacy towards the state legislature for additional funding, or even just adequate funding. A question of approaching our local community with regard to a levy or a levy plus. These are the questions that this board should be working on, because that's how this type of system gets established over time, relationships are built over time, and students feel cared for and seen throughout the entirety of their education process. This is the work of our board.
Anyone else have anything to ask Ms. Larson or to contribute? All right, thank you, Ms. Larson, appreciate it. That moves us over to our demographic student counts. Superintendent McDowell.
We're going to have Jen Subert present kind of a new presentation or a new way of presenting our enrollment that we've put together. Hopefully this will be informative and will allow folks to see where we're at and where we've been, and something that we can probably start doing on an annual basis that that'll make a little bit more sense of where our enrollment and our demographics are at on a yearly basis.
Thank you. All right, so this presentation will be based on a snapshot of October 1 data. And for school districts, that's kind of a benchmark date, because as of October 1, you know, like if new students are coming, some students didn't show up, all of that is kind of finalized and sorted out by October 1. So this first slide here is just a summary. It will show the past 3 years, and it breaks it out by kind of district-wide, elementary, and secondary. So our October 1, 2020 total for K through 12 was 4,140. October 1, 2021 is 4,079. So we had a decrease of about 61 students. And then our October 1, 2022 was 4,038. So a decrease of about 41 students. And as far as where our enrollment projection was for this year, we were at 4,079. So there's a small adjustment there that's coming. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one here. So that 4,038 is our current, and then as we look at the budget projection, there's about a 7 student difference that we'll be adjusting in the revised budget. And then you can kind of see the breakdown as far as the elementary schools and the secondary schools, and we have each building listed, but I won't go through that detailed right now. I will post this to our website though, if you wanted to look at it later, and it's also in board book. As far as the district ethnic diversity, right now you can see 82.2% of our district is white, but you can also see what those other categories are, and there are some funding streams that are tied to certain ethnic categories, and one example of that is the American Indian Education Aid is based on the number of students that we have in that category. Here's just a quick snapshot of our enrollment for the past 10 years. And you can see that it is decreasing, and this is in alignment with the information we received from that Hazel Reinhardt that did a presentation to the board earlier in the year. This is the ethnic diversity over the past 10 years. So that percent is continuing to increase slightly. So we're now at 17.9% for the 22-23 school year. On this one, the free and reduced eligibility for 22-23, we're currently at 27.5% of our students are qualifying for either free or reduced, which that is the highest percent we've seen in the last 10 years. 2021 and 21-22, I think we've talked about this before, but those probably aren't real accurate reflections because the meals were free during those years. So there was less incentive for families to complete those forms. But the 27.5 is definitely the highest that we've seen. As far as special education, again, this is the highest that we've seen. So we're at 16.5% of our students are qualifying for special education services, which coming out of the pandemic is probably not a surprise, but we have talked about that in other areas. English learners stayed consistent with 21-22, so we're at 1.7% of our students are English learners. And with this one, we do get some EL revenue tied to the number of students that qualify. And then our non-public school students, so again, the blue on this one is the non-public schools in Hastings. So you can see for 22-23, there's about 305 of our students that are attending non-public schools in Hastings, which has been fairly consistent over the last, 7 or 8 years. And then the orange are our students that attend a non-public school outside of Hastings. And again, that has remained pretty consistent. And this one is homeschool students. So we did have a peak in the 2021 and 21-22 school years during COVID. We are now back to kind of a consistent, going all the way back to like 2015, 2016. So we're at 109 of our students are currently being homeschooled. And then open enrollment. So open enrollment, the blue are open enrolled or non-resident students attending ISD 200. And again, there's just not a huge fluctuation in those numbers. And then the orange are students attending non-public schools elsewhere. So we currently have 432 of our students attending other schools outside of the district. And this last one is going to be the Dakota County ALC. So we do have our own ALP program within the district. This is 917, Intermediate School District 917's ALC program. And for the 22-23 year, we have 12 of our students there, which is a decrease compared to what we've seen the last couple years. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Questions for Ms. Subert? I do have one. Do you have any indication as to why the drop off in the ALC participation at 917?
Yeah, it's really early, so I don't have a lot of information, but you can see there's a significant difference between, you know, how many students we have there this year versus the last couple of years. We did do some expansion of our own ALC program, but it's hard to just compare those numbers from year to year just because there can be different pockets of kids.
Fine, that's great, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Subert? All right, thank you, Ms. Subert. We'll move on to the Building Construction Fund project update. Superintendent McDowell, will that be you or will that be Ms. Subert? Who's that going to be?
Ms. Subert's going to cover that one.
There we go.
Okay, so we're continuing on with our projects in the Building Construction Fund, making a lot of progress. We currently have $474,000 left in contingency, and as other projects close out, the remaining funds will be added into that contingency. We have several projects that are in the process of being closed out, so kind of in that middle section of in-process projects. We're just working on closeout documents and final punch lists. And then in the month of November, we'll actually have 3 bid openings for additional projects. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Questions for Ms. Subert on the Building Construction Fund update? All right, thank you, Ms. Subert. That brings us to the Policy Committee report.
Policy met twice in October. We are making a lot of headway with all the policies that are on our list for review. We added an additional meeting to November with the intent that we will bring a buffet of policies for first review and second review by our November board. That's all I have.
Thank you, Director Mom. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, Director Tate, please.
Sorry, last month was a nightmare for me trying to prepare for the meeting with getting 20-some policies. Is there a way that maybe after your meeting or something that the board could get the policies in advance of the agenda being released, just so that we know that they're ready for us to start reviewing, so that I don't have to feel like I'm cramming for a final?
Yes, and that's something that, you know, on November 2nd, when we meet again, you know, that gives us at least 2 weeks to actually finalize what that buffet looks like, and hopefully get that out there so that, yeah, because it does take a lot of hours to go through all of those, just like everything else. Yeah.
Thank you for that analogy. That was a tough time, cramming for finals. Okay. Any other questions for Director Mom on policy? No? Okay, then we're going to move to action items. The first one is the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. And a second, please.
So move.
Second.
I know we had some discussion on this. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Director Tate.
I just had one question that was not answered. The MOU, I guess I was wondering what brought this on to come to the board?
Superintendent McDowell?
The MOU for increasing the pay for teachers subbing for a colleague was something that we did last year and was found to be successful. It's something that's come to us from the teachers, and you heard concerns or you heard support of it at or prior to this meeting. It's part of a multiple prong approach to try and get our classrooms covered as much as we can, because particularly at the middle school, we struggle to go without a day where we're not having teachers needing to cover other classes. And so it's a way to show that we appreciate the value of their willingness and ability to cover those classes for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tate. Any other questions? Director Beisel.
It's just a comment. So when I was looking through the personnel report, I noticed what we hire the non-public school nurses. And just so that Dr. McDowell emailed me back that we do get the funding back for that. It's part of, you want to explain it more than me? But I just want people to know that.
Superintendent McDowell.
Yeah, so what ends up happening is the non-public schools present need or fill out forms that give us the need that they have, and we have an obligation to provide proportional services in health staff, and so the school district hires the nurses to provide that, but ends up being kind of the flow through from the state. So we pay for it, we get reimbursed for what we pay for the services that we provide. So we organize it. Correct, it's not out of our budget.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you for the question, Director Beisel. Okay, so with that, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Did I already do that?
Yeah. I was gonna say, didn't we do that once already?
Sorry about that. All right, all those in favor of voting for the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That's 4. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Let the record show that was a 4-2. That moves us up to our items for individual action, starting with donations. This is just typically, unless I'm missing something, Superintendent McDowell, this is just us going through a resolution to accept the donations as they were given?
Yep, so this is one of those, a couple times a year, we have donations that need to be approved by the board through resolution, and the first document there is the resolution. So typically the board, while it doesn't go through the specifics of each donation, presents the resolution as written, and then the board approves that with a roll call vote. I would just put out there that this is one of those areas where we are extremely lucky and fortunate in the amount of support that the community has for the school district and the willingness to donate to a variety of different causes and events that involve our students. And we saw an example of that tonight with our marching band. And so I would recommend that the board approve this motion.
Sorry, thank you, Dr. McDowell. Okay, so if you're ready, Director Beisel, to read the resolution, that'd be great.
I, Becky Beisel, introduce the following resolution and move for its adoption. Whereas School Board Policy 706 establishes guidelines for the acceptance of gifts and donations to the district. Whereas Minnesota State Section 465.03 states that the school board may accept a gift, grant, or device of real or personal property in accordance with the terms prescribed by the donor only by the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of its members. And whereas the referenced donations in the District 200 donations report from July 2022 to September 2022 have been generously donated. I need a second.
Second.
So all those voting in favor of the resolution, say aye. Or do you do that? Oh, roll call. That's what you said. Sorry. Carrie Tate.
Yes.
Lisa Hedin.
Yes.
Jessica Dressley.
Yes.
Becky Beisel. Yes. Stephanie Malm.
Yes.
And Brian Davis.
Yes.
Therefore, be it resolved by the Hastings Public School District School Board to gratefully accept these gifts.
Thank Thank you, Director Beisel, and thank you very much, everyone, for your contributions. Just going through this summary list of everything that was donated and for the purposes that they were donated is very overwhelming, and it's very humbling to see the amount of support this community provides, so thank you. That moves us next to the custodian group contract.
Yeah, so I'm happy to bring forward for approval the custodian contract this evening for the school board. This contract, the provisions, the change provisions have been ratified by the custodial group as we reached a tentative agreement with them a couple weeks ago. I can report to the board that the contract was arrived at within the parameters that the board set. We have a couple of major updates to include insurance that we're doing with all groups through that, which shouldn't be anything new. We're taking out a lot of the appendices that were at the end of the contract and building those into the verbiage of the contract, so it's not confusing for the groups as they work through the contract. And then this group, as you can see, there's an MOU. We've agreed to do an MOU for a sick bank, much like we have with our teachers group. So I will additionally point out that because it seems like there's multiple questions on contracts and how they work, and it is rare that a contract in its full finished version is presented to a school board for adoption. Typically what happens is a summary of provisions is provided to the board, what's been agreed on, and that's what the board votes on, because when you're dealing with the labor groups, what they have ratified are the changed provisions in the contract. That's what they vote on, are the things that between the district's negotiations team and the bargaining groups team have agreed upon tentatively until it's ratified, those pieces that will be changed in the contract. So what I tried to do for this meeting to try and help that process was, instead of just providing a simple list of here's what changed, provide the strikeout so people could see what that looks like in terms of after you get those agreed upon languages, anything that's struck out is what's going to disappear. Anything that's read and not struck out is what gets added. Regardless of how it gets presented to the board, the typical piece here, as I pointed out in the email that I sent to the board, was that the board, like the bargaining group, through its vote, essentially ratifies its side of the contract, and then administration goes back and makes all the appropriate changes, additions, modifications. And one piece that I will point out is, just for clarification, because I know that in the past there's been quite a few questions about commas and periods and capitals and formatting. That is one of the pieces of the ratified agreement, which are housekeeping items, which is why when I sent you the message, I said after tonight, if you approve it, then what we will go back and do is redo the numbering, redo the where you got to change district to district, because we're still in the process of cleaning up some of these contracts that have been added to multiple times over multiple years. And so there are things that need to be changed in there, and we're working through that process. Finally, I would just remind everyone that when we negotiate contracts, we don't start from scratch. So there are portions of a contract that potentially could be outdated and have stayed outdated because that's not a provision that was touched in order to be changed. That's why we do the house cleaning thing. So what Kathy Moen has tried to do is to go through each contract and say, on its face, here's the house cleaning stuff that I think we should try to clean up at least this round. Why I will put this out here, it doesn't put the district at any risk more so than any other, is you've had these contracts in play for how many years? And it's how the process has been done. So with all that, I would ask for the board to approve the custodial contract so we can get them finished up, their retro pay, and all of that organized for this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. I appreciate the clarifications. I appreciate the work on creating a strikeout draft. I think that makes things clear in many respects, and also just the dialogue is also very helpful in and understanding how some of these things work when you're working with collective bargaining units. I need a motion and a second to approve the contract, and then we can have a discussion if you like.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a first and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Director Mo.
Thank you for all your hard work on this, Superintendent McDowell, and to your team too. I know that when it comes to contracts and negotiating, we sit down as a board and we go over the parameters of what that looks like. And then you sit down with the different groups and you negotiate back and forth. It's a very lengthy process. I also know that our contracts have gone through legal and they are legally sufficient, which kind of puts my mind at ease. I really like the strike through, so please add that on, as it's really nice to see the compare and contrast of what was on the contract previously and what is new, and then we can reference, any notes from our negotiations meetings to verify that, yep, we are good to go. So I know that this is a lengthy process and really appreciate your team's efforts in getting this done.
Director Tate.
So I guess I understand that we're voting on the terms, but ultimately the board is responsible for the contract in its final state, and obviously we sign it. So are we going to be seeing this contract again after all of the cleanup and the revisions and all of that happens, or not?
Director Mo.
They're available to the public, yeah. So they're on our website. We are privy to all the contracts once they're ratified. Absolutely.
Right, but I'm saying, so what if after tonight? So first of all, I sent a very lengthy email of concerns that I have with the current state of the contract, and Superintendent McDowell referenced a few of those that I brought up, but I'm just concerned. So are all of these things going to be cleaned up before the contract is signed? And I'm uneasy about signing off on a quote unquote final contract when this isn't the final contract. It's ultimately in draft form at this point.
Oh, Director Radin.
What I heard Superintendent McDowell say and what has been past practice, and I am not privy to that lengthy email, which is fine. We are approving the changed provisions and the negotiated provisions, and those will be as represented in the contract. And they fall within the parameters given by the board, the negotiation parameters, so I'm very comfortable.
And it does appear that the components of T's crossed, I's dotted is something that Dr. McDowell referenced in terms of what's in the document. At least that's my understanding of it. Director Tate, you had something else, I believe.
Yes, I guess, my concern comes down to, yes, we're signing off on the provisions and they meet our expectations. However, if this contract goes to court, goes to a mediator, goes somewhere, we are on the hook for every single word that is in this contract. So that's where I am nervous about saying, yes, go ahead, and then it going beyond us to have all of these corrections made and we don't see it again before it is actually signed. I'll hold this up. This is my email of requested changes. Okay. So it's lengthy, and I understand, and I'm assuming that there are things that I certainly didn't catch as well. So I'm concerned about saying yes, and then we are legally on the hook for the final version, which we will not see again before it's signed.
Thank you for presenting that. Director Mo.
And I know we have very briefly in the past talked about the contracts. All of them went to legal, so they are legally sufficient.
Any other comments? All right, then I'm going to put it to a vote then. We've already had a first and seconded. I just need a vote for all those in favor of approving the custodian group contract or approving the terms of the custodian group contract that we're responsible for. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. I think that was everybody, so the motion passes. Thank you. Oh, yes, Director Beisel.
Maybe going forward, since we have people that are uneasy and wanting to do this, can we just look at it before it's signed? Like, can you email it again? Just so that everybody feels comfortable before you sign it. Yes, we want this to go into place, but is there a way that maybe to make everybody feel easy about it? Not just, a couple people, but the whole board feel unease?
I wasn't gonna say anything. I think that it's one of those things, like, as we're throwing things around on Friday, maybe we throw that around too, right? I just think there's a number of things on a Friday we're really gonna get to go through and really dig into that's gonna be beneficial to all of us. And speaking of that moves us to request for future topics. So I know that we've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering on Friday, and we've got things that we've got set up for our next work session and so on and so forth as we're moving into the close of the year. So I want us to be very mindful of what else we try to add because I know how much we've got on our plates already. But with that, I'm going to ask for any requests for future topics. It'll have to be motioned, seconded, and then voted on to be added to our list. With that, do we have anything that is pressing, or can we buy ourselves a month? How are we feeling about Director Tate?
Yeah, I guess I would just like to, since I rescinded my earlier motion for tonight, I would like to move that we have the discussion to replace our current law firm with Kennedy and Graven due to the concerns I discussed earlier.
We need a second to that.
Seconded. Are we discussing that tonight, or we're putting?
No. This is a future agenda item somewhere.
Seconded.
Once we can put it on the agenda somewhere. Director Beisel.
So if we put it on for a future topic, we should have all the information, and like you said, the lawyer there, all the information on any other law firm before we just, otherwise we can go round and round for 8 hours talking about it. We should, if we put it on for December, we should have all the information. If we don't, then move it on to another month.
Yes, I don't know if it'd be December. Like I said, our agendas are pretty full, but yes, it's a matter of adding it to the queue. We'd be voting to add it to the queue somewhere. Director Dressley?
My concern with pushing it out further would be January is our organizational meeting, and I think that was the purpose behind requesting it last month in the first place. Because last year, that's what we were told during the organizational meeting, that it has to be done months before that meeting for it to be even considered.
Oops, Director Dean.
I think, not that I believe we have any time whatsoever available to us on Friday, but I think we need to consider our practices. If we're going to have future topics as an agenda item, I don't believe the intent is to bring the same topic up every month until it finally passes, and find ways to reframe it so that additional information gets put into the discussion. So I have some reservations about that as a practice.
Okay. Director Tate.
I'd like to say I agree. I should have had all of the additional information with me last month, and I simply did not, so I apologize for that.
It's a lot. I just know that our plates are full, so we'll just have to hammer through and see what we can get through in terms of our conversations on Friday too, and just see where we're at when all of that falls out. But that being said, we've got a first and a second on the table. We need to, if we have no more discussion, we need to vote on this particular motion to add this to our agenda queue. So all those in favor signify by saying aye, please. Those opposed? It's 3-3, so for the time being, we're not going to add it to the queue. Future meetings. For anybody out there or anybody here, you can see any of the future meetings that we've got coming up. We've got a retreat on Friday. That's a little bit unique in the sense that the first half of that is considered just for the board. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent McDowell, it does then open up to the public. Is that correct afterwards?
Yeah, that's correct. And we've tried to outline it in the posting that the morning is a closed training for the board with MSBA, and the afternoon, for 12 o'clock at 12 p.m., same location, then it opens up and it's a regular retreat for the afternoon. So that is open.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. All right, with that and the clarification for that meeting that we've got on Friday, it looks like we're up to adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned, 7:20 p.m.